a study conducted by the Human Sciences Reasearch Council has found that a number of municipal officials lack training and skills that are needed to deliver public services. It also found that more tools are needed to reinforce ethical behavior and leadership among municipal officials to resist corruption and maladministration. So how can this study be used as a guide? Let's speak to Dr. Yul Davids, who is a research director at the HSRC's Division for the Developmental, Capable and Ethical State. Dr. Davids, thanks very much for your time this morning on such an incredibly important issue, because we always talk about the state of our municipalities, don't we? And the levels of corruption that lead to poor service delivery. How dire are external factors like corruption, maladministration and a lack of training linked to the state of our municipalities?
Good morning, Michelle. Let me just go back a little bit and just give an indication of the study. We have conducted a study in 8 municipalities across South Africa since 2019, and we spoke to senior officials as well as frontline officials. We also spoke to stakeholders that work closely with municipalities, and we've done an extensive literature review. Now, as you just indicated, I mean, municipalities, a local government in particular, compared to national and provincial government, has always been rated very lowly, and the levels of trust is extremely low in the capacity of, from people's perspective and from the stakeholders that interview in terms of delivering services. And I think this capacity deficit, it's quite visible if we look at the last few years and the spate of protests that's happening across the country. And, this really impact on the ability of municipalities to deliver services. And what we found is that, one of the key issues at municipalities is the high vacancy rate. I mean, in one municipality over these 2 years, we found that there were about 4 acting municipal managers. Now, one can think about the impact that has on, performance. So over 3 months, because these people are acting, they're very, very scared to make decisions. They're very scared to implement. And there's also a lack then of, forward planning. And this really, besides the high vacancy rate, you also have, lack of key skills in key strategic positions. And there's really an impact on municipalities' ability to deliver services. But there's also, a number of other factors that I can talk about. But so there is, because these are officials that are not qualified or fully qualified, they lack ability to plan. They lack ability to do internal controls. And we know if you don't have those skills requisites, there's really impact on the ability to perform. But also then, it opens the door for maladministration. It opens the door for corruption. And this is what we've seen over the last few years. And this is why you have a disgruntled electorate. And we can also say that is why many of the electorate didn't go out to the polls. And that also have implications for our country. I
mean, you talk about, one issue around the high vacancy rate. So it means, as you say, that people are scared of making decisions. It also means a lack of planning insofar as service delivery issues and other issues are concerned in the running of a municipality. But aside from that, the people who are even acting in these positions, how qualified are they in terms of financial and actual engineering skills?
Well, what we found was that, and this is from the horse's mouth, from speaking to the officials, there's a great deal of a big deficit in terms of financial skills. There's a high vacancy rate and also a lack of skills in terms of good financial managers. Looking at skills such as engineering skills, it's really dire. So one needs to ask yourself the question whether the recruitment process, whether the planning process are up to par. And we certainly don't think it's up to par because there's a high shortage of much needed skills to just deliver basic services. I mean, we know in Makana, municipality in the Eastern Cape, civil society organizations took the municipality to court because of lack of water provision. And that was really because of maladministration, but as well as lack of qualified skills, to monitor the situation. Because what we currently find is that there's a lot of reactive work going on in municipalities, not proactive, where there's better planning. We know what's the problems, but we don't appoint the right people in those positions. And yes.
Dr. David, can I ask you this? I mean, how is it possible that people are appointed to these positions without the requisite skills? Because if you go to any job interview for whatever position, they want to know that you have the qualifications to do the job you are being appointed to. How does this happen in our municipalities?
Well, we haven't looked in detail into that, but the consequences that we've seen is, and which I can speak to, and this is really a result of, inadequate appointment, people not meeting criteria. If you're looking at the political and administrative interface, what we found, and this is across many studies, but our study in particular found that you still find people being appointed on the grounds of their political party affiliation. Now, this may be a cliche, but in most of the municipalities, you find that people are more loyal to the party than, to the electorate. And this really impacts on the municipality's ability to perform. Because, I mean, we must be concerned if we think about the outcome of the elections and the many coalitions that will be formed. It's going to be a situation of, ideology and a fight for position rather than getting together and dealing with the developmental challenges. And this is really because of a lack of not just skills and expertise, but also a lack of commitment, a lack of integrity. So we also need to look at the governance structures at municipalities, whether people are, taken to task if they don't meet the certain protocols. And so therefore consequence management is going to be quite crucial, but this is also becoming just a word. People need to really be taken to task if they don't deliver. If they don't have the skills and capacity, then they need to be, shown the room, or we need to get proper people. We're really on a very difficult path if we're not going to do that, because the vast majority of municipalities have not, if you look at the Auditor General's report, they really, over the last few years, they are performing poorly. So if we continue this trend, we're really going to be in a big mess.
I suppose the question then is, as these coalition discussions continue, is whether the coalitions are going to be formed in municipalities to rule or to deliver services.
Well, there are some good signs. I mean, over the last few years, there are in certain municipalities where there were coalitions that, worked well together. However, in most cases, it really led to instability. And the instability creates distrust amongst the electorate. And also then you will see that people then decide to live outside the sphere of government. So in other words, they don't obey, they don't pay for services, and then they demand services. And this all don't bode well for a municipality, because you cannot run a business per se without funds and without the necessary backing. But at the same time, I think the municipalities, and coming back to the leadership, there's a lack of leadership and skills in terms of, working with the communities, working with business, working with civil society organization in a much broader way besides, forming coalitions. And that is what's needed currently. And what we found, this is particularly needed in the poorer municipalities and in the rural municipalities, because they do not have the necessary capacity. And many of the officials working in this area sometimes leave to the cities to find better opportunities. The cities themselves, on the other hand, cannot cope because of the influx of people, and their budgets are always, not perfectly planned, because always underestimating. And so it's really a snowball effect that we really, I don't have the words to really talk about this, because it is something that we need to be committed, We need to put our hands together, irrespective of political party loyalty, because we need to say, these are the development challenges. We know that unemployment has been high. We know that poverty and inequality is increasing. Whether we looking at, we need to look at the day-to-day life of people on the ground. And you would find that the vast majority of people are unemployed.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the social. We can continue with that. There needs to be commitment. There needs to be strong leadership. There needs to be from the top down and consequence management. And these needs to be visible. And people needs to see that, you know, if you're corrupt, you are being taken to task.
Doctor,
so hopefully.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Dr. Yule Davids, let me thank you for your time this morning. Such an incredibly important study being conducted there by the Human Sciences Research Council between 2019 and 2021, looking at the skills and capacity of municipal officials. And of course, we don't have to tell our viewers the impact that has on service delivery. Dr. Davids, let me thank you for your time this morning.